you guys are interested in the origins of this band and things I made reference to earlier about how old it is, I think I'm going to make that very clear here. So if you just bear with me for about, I'd say about 6 minutes, I'm going to explain how this all evolved. And really it had to do with everybody kind of getting together. I'll talk a little bit more about it. It's written a little more in detail, but we'll do a little talking here. Those who are interested in buying the album, there's the cover. Thanks to Deedle. And there's the inspiration, Kayla, Woodstock. I know she'd like to be at Bonnaroo tonight. She actually asked me if she could skip graduation to go to Bonnaroo. And I know Nathan would have been at Bonnaroo, but he's here tonight. He's the cinematographer, editor extraordinaire. So I want to thank him up front for that. All right, so this is like an old picture from the 60s. I think you recognize, speaking of Woodstock, there's Mark. Right there, there's me. And, you know, Mark was kind of saving me. There's some girl hitting on me down there, and he's like, hey, Doug, you want to stay away from that? So the funny thing was we're out there, like, just having a good time, the whole Woodstock thing, and then, there, we saw this girl playing a banjo in the crowd. We're like, whoa, what's that? It's pretty 95 degrees out here. I mean, she seemed pretty happy with her little winter event there with a banjo. And, you know, we're like, wow, that's really strange, dude. She's playing in the crowd. They're kind of getting into it. Most of them are passed out. And then, just a little bit later, there she was on stage with Jimi Hendrix, and we're like, man, that girl can jam. We're like, whoa, Caroline. We didn't even know who she was, but at the time we had no idea. We're just like, hey, we're just out there hanging out. So then, a few years later, band gets together, the new Tazewell players. It's a long story, too long to get into tonight, but that's Mark over here on the left. And I was kind of into some funny hats back then, and I got on stage. I convinced them to put the electric down and go to a little acoustic thing. We kind of started doing that for a while. And then we're like jamming. We're like in college and in Knoxville over at UT. We started going through we're like putting some albums on. And I think most of you recognize this as Fleetwood Mac. They're like Stevie Nicks and Christine McVie. This is like one of the big albums of our generation. Many people in this room. And, you know, Mark's looking at it. He goes, wait a minute. I think I've got an earlier version of that. Like an original cut. And we're like, whoa, what is that? You know? I mean, we're like, and so we start talking, and we're going, there's something not right about this. I said, is that the girl from Woodstock? Yeah, that's what we said. And we're like, you know, she does not look like she's aged at all. I mean, like the same smile. It's like even the same headband, for God's sake. Man, we're like, you know, I mean, I tell you what, and so we started listening to it, and we're like, that is definitely not, you know, that is not, what's her name? Not Christine McVie, but the other, whatever the other harlot was with that band. So then we're like, let's just go through some old library video stuff, and we're like, this is before Pete Best was with the Beatles. I mean, look at that. I mean, there she is. She's got like that same headband, a little bit of a strained look. I mean, this is them from 1960. This is circa 1960. This is like 1960, almost 61. And we're like, well, let's just flash forward. Like, you know, when did Ringo actually join? I mean, there's some stuff here going down. And there she is. Like, this is pre-Ringo. Still pre-Ringo. There's Caroline. And we're like, she really has not aged. So we're like, you know, I said, Mark, let's just go down to the, you know, I learned a lot of genealogy, talking to my mom. She does a lot of that stuff. And Dad, they went up to Virginia, researching the Lee heritage. And so we start going into this. I guess we know where the crackle's coming from. Anyway, I mean, this is kind of an iconic figure with the the Empire State Building. And, I mean, look at that. I mean, it's like the same girl. I mean, there's something not, we're like, same age, whatever. I mean, so we're like, hey, let's go back another 100 years. And, I mean, look at that. Is that ironic or what? I mean, Robert E. Lee and Appomattox. There's and she looks pretty pissed off, actually. What the heck is going down here? You are letting it go, dude. So, anyway, we're like, there is something really special about this girl. We've got to find her. You know, she's got to be somewhere in Knoxville.
Totally.
Bring back the Mean Tangerine.
All right, and then we found her. We're like, she's touring on her own, and we're like, we go to her and we convince her to join us. And there we are, the original Mean Tangerine. I mean, you guys, we got a t-shirt back here, those of you interested. There it is.
Woo! Yeah, Mean Tangerine!
Then Mark meets my sister Diette, you know, inspiration. And here's the inspiration for me, which we'll talk a little bit about. It always revolves around Tennessee football. That's my wife there to your right, my left. And at some Tennessee football game, doesn't matter. And we get her to join, and there is the new Mean Tangerine. And then tonight, you're getting to see the new Mean Tangerine. And there's the back of our album, Songs We Wish We Wrote. You know, Last Train to Maynardville, Might Get Fooled Again, Tazwelly Rhapsody, Hey Dude. I mean, the list goes on and on. We got more, but that's all we can get on that album cover. So, anyway, without further ado, we got about 2 more songs in us because we really haven't practiced. I think that's pretty, evident. But we haven't played together in years. But what really happened was Mark and I had some issues. I like to juggle. He doesn't like me juggling on stage. So, he thought that didn't really work with rock and roll bands. So he kind of left. We broke up for a long time. And then we kind of, I like hiking on the getting a training for hiking on the Appalachian Trail. Caroline and I go to a U2 concert, and we kind of get inspired to get the band back together. And so I talked to Mark. He said, "Yeah, let's do it. We're going to get it back together." So they're back together. If you want, what we could do, and actually it's going to happen whether you don't want it to or not. It's what's going to happen. Is we're going to get the original free Mean Tangerine out here if you really want to see it. And if you don't, you know where the is. So we're going to have the ageless Caroline, who, as I said, has over 200 years of musical experience under her belt.
Go Caroline!
And then we'll see if we can get back to some of our roots, okay?
Yeah, Mean Tangerine!